Super Scoreboard presents Scotland's Euro Stories with the Scottish Sun.
Hello, I'm Stephen Mill and welcome to Scotland's Euro Stories with the Scottish Sun. This is the podcast where we're looking back at our national size appearances at previous tournaments, of course 92, 96 and Euro 2020. Remember, you can get all the latest news and views on Scotland in the Scottish Sun, as well as all the summer transfer moves and rumours at thescottishsun.co.uk. I am joined by Scottish Sun's head of sport and also the quiz master on Clyde One Super Scoreboard. I mean, I say the quiz master, you're not actually the quiz host, but you're the master of the quiz is what I meant. Roger Hanna, how you doing? You
I'm
okay?
very well, yep. Looking forward to another one of these podcasts. It's great to a little amble down memory lane. Builds up the excitement ahead of these finals.
Exactly. So today we've got somebody who played actually at 3 major tournaments for Scotland, including Italia 90. But obviously we're going to be focusing on Euro 92 and Euro 96. Now, we've said this before, Roger. Euro 92, I was 3 years old at this time. I have watched the matches. I know who was in the squad. I'm familiar, but I'll be leaning on you for Euro 92, whereas Euro 96 was when football just took off for me. So we've got it covered between them. 40 caps for Scotland, an absolute stalwart playing in the midfield for both Andy Roxburgh and Craig Brown. Delighted to say that joining us on the line is Mr. Stuart McCall. How are you doing, Stuart?
All good, guys, thank you.
Listen, thanks so much for coming on today. We're just going to, as Roger says, have a wee amble down memory lane. Roger, I'll let you kick off though.
I was just going to say, Stuart, he's claiming he was 3 years old at Euro 92. Now, you played in the tournament. I remember it ever so well, and he looks older than the two of us, so we must be doing something right.
You're not wrong.
It's your, it must be your skincare regime or something like that, Stuart. I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Stuart, I was going to take you right back to the very start, because if my memory serves me right, Scotland were quite lucky to get you. Were you not named in a Scotland under-21 squad and England under-21 squad on the same day?
No, yes, it was an absolute nightmare, to be honest. I was playing for Prophecy, and I was down in the bath actually, and the secretary came down and just said, "Yeah, good news, you've been picked for Scotland under-21s," which was a dream. Even though I was born and bred in Leeds and obviously English speaking, Yorkshire accent, Scotland was always my country. I was down there in 81 to see John Robertson score his penalty, draped in tartan when I was only a 17-year-old boy. So brilliant, yeah, I got picked for the 21s. Sir Alex Ferguson was a 21 manager. Anyway, 10 minutes later, the secretary came down again. He says, "Oh, even better news, you've been picked for England 21s. Oh, it wasn't great news for me, I've got to be honest. Because, there was no mobile phones in them days. I couldn't get hold of my dad or my mum. And I started getting pressurised from the club in a way, because if I was going to be an England under-21 player, it would bring the club a lot more money if I was going to be a Scotland under-21 player. And at the time, the late, great man Trevor Cherry was manager, played for England. Terry Orrath played for Wales. The chairman was into me, saying, "Oh, you best pick England." There was only one Anglo playing down in Scotland at the time. It was Brian McClair at Man United. They were all Rangers, Celtic, Dundee United, Aberdeen, Hearts, players in the squad. So, after about 2 hours of debating and everyone ringing and finding out who had picked, I went totally against my heart and was sort of forcing to pick in England. So I've gone home that night, a little council flat, me and my mum, and the phone goes about 8 o'clock, and my mum picks it up. He says, "It's Jock Stein for you." I went, "Right, okay, Ma." So I went on, "All right, big man, how's it hanging?" I totally thought it was John Hendry, my Scottish teammate, played for Bradford. And he went, "Oh, this is Mr. Stein here." I've gone, "Yeah, okay, Jock, how's things?" And then he spoke again, and I thought, this isn't John Hendry, this is actually Mr. Stein. And he just went on to tell me he understood I had a tough decision. He'd gone to in Hamilton. I think he'd gone to school with my dad, and apparently, unbeknown to me, my dad had sent him a letter a couple of years before saying I was eligible to play for Scotland because obviously my dad's birth. And he absolutely just said, he said, I know you've had a really discreet, I just want to ring you up and say all the best for your future. And I'm not kidding. Like, tears rolling down my face. My mum's looking at me saying, everything okay? I couldn't believe, Mr. Jock Stein, the great man, had rung me up at my home to say, I know it's a tough decision, but good luck with your future. Can you imagine Sir Alex doing that? Anyway.
Did you have to speak to Sir Alex and explain your decision to him? Because that would have been a very different phone call, I would imagine.
100% it would have been, but no. I came off and I said to my mum, I said, I'm changing my decision. I'm going back in tomorrow morning and I'm going with my heart, which is Scotland, who I've always wanted to play for. Anyway, as I'm going in the morning, all the papers, headlines, McCall rejects Jocks, McCall a true Yorkshireman and all this stuff. And I went into the club, I said, listen, I want to change my mind. They said, you can't now, it's done. So, cut a long story short, I went away with England to Turkey, the national team and the 21s. And they tried to put me on with 5 minutes to go, which I thought was just sort of security policy that if I got on for England, then I wouldn't be able to ever play for Scotland again. So I went behind the goals. Tony Cotty come round and says, it was Dave Sexton was the 21 manager. He says, the manager wants you on. And I was pretending I couldn't hear him. Anyway, I came, walked back round. I got in the dugout. I threw my shin pads back because you couldn't get on without pads. I snapped my tie up. I did everything I could to waste time. And then finally, he got me on, took my tracksuit off, and I've got a picture. I'm stood outside the pitch with my England kit on. Dave Sexton's got his hand around my shoulders, ready to put me on. And the referee blew his whistle, and I thought because the ball had gone out of play. And I'm actually going on, and then I realised it was a final whistle. And it was the biggest sort of sliding doors moment for me, actually, as well as relief, because thankfully I went back and I told him I'd changed my mind, etc. And then years down the line, I ended up playing for Scotland under 21s as an overage player, and the rest is history. And
let's just say you got there in the end. You made the right decision in the end. You got there. You play in the under 21s, and then lo and behold, you make your debut against Argentina, which must have been absolutely incredible.
It was, and it was strange as well, because I made me under 21 debut as an overage player down at Notts Forest against England, and Gazza was playing. He came off after 18 minutes in my pocket. No, he was injured. And we got beat 1-0, I remember, but it was just a great case. Anyway, I played 221 games. And then Scotland had qualified for Italia 90. Andy Roxburgh called up. 4 of us played that night against Argentina, made us debuts, which is quite unusual, really. Once a team's qualified for a tournament, you don't normally get that many people breaking in after that. But again, yeah, I mean, 50,000 sold out, Hampden, playing against the World Cup holders. And we went and I nodded the ball down for Stuart McCall, another debutant who smashed it in. And we won 1-0, and it was, but then obviously then the Tartan Army thought, we're going to Italy, if we can beat Argentina, World Cup holders are going to go win it. But unfortunately, it never works out like that.
No, not quite. I'm just looking at the team from that day as well. It was Leighton, Gough, McKimmie, Craig Levine, Alex McLeish, Murdo McLeod, Jim Bett, Hugh Stewart, Alan McInally, Paul McStay, and Robert Fleck. Roy Aitken and Brian McClare came on. Decent side. Obviously,
well, out of them, Stephen, 4 of them were debutants. Me, Craig Levine, Flecky, and Stuart McKimmie.
Yeah.
I must add, apparently Maradona got news that I was making my debut. And he went, I'm not going over there then.
He'd already played at Hampden. No, He'd already played at Hampden, that's what it was. He was scared.
He did pull out later on, you know what I mean, which was quite unfortunate. But anyway, it was a great start.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, this podcast is about the Euros, but we can't not ask you about playing in a a World Cup for Scotland, which is just incredible. And you know, you were a goal scorer as well at the World Cup. So it was disappointing in the end. But I'm guessing from a personal point of view, you must have been so proud. And you know, we've asked previous guests on this podcast about what it's like pulling on the blue jersey for the first time. Pulling on the blue jersey at a World Cup must be another level.
Well, it was, especially as I said, come when they qualified, there was nowhere near it. So you just want to get in the squad. Then when you get over there to Italy, you want to try to get in the starting 11, which was fortunate to do. But it was typical Scotland. When the draw came out, it was Brazil, where you go, oof, tough, obviously. Sweden, and then Costa Rica. You know what I mean? Nobody knew about them. It was. But when we went to that first game, Costa Rica, and we come off, it were like we'd let everyone down. I couldn't speak to anyone. But the good thing with the 3-game, tournament thing for us there, we had Sweden a few days later, and I managed to nick a goal from a yard out, which I was deadly from. I wasn't good at taking instructions really, because Andy Roxon told me to be on edge at 18-yard box, but I ended up on edge at 6-yard box. But scored that, and then we did well against Brazil, and we lost to a late goal, and I think Taffarel made a save of the tournament from Wemo later on, and so we came back with a bit of pride intact because we started disastrously against Costa Rica and beat Sweden and did okay. We're unlucky against Brazil not to get a draw and go through. So, but it was a great tournament to be involved in, naturally.
I think if we move on to the Euros, I think you are in something of an elite club, Stuart, because there are only 3 of you who have played 6 games for Scotland at a European Championship finals. I think yourself, Gary McAllister, and the late great Andy Gorham played all games at Euro 92 and Euro 96. So by the time Andy Roxburgh took you to Sweden for Euro 92, you were very much a mainstay in that team.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think after the World Cup at 90, because I was playing for Everton at the time, I think that solidified me in to get regular game time for Scotland. It was like Paul McStay, John Collins, Gary Mack. That's how it went. But yeah, I think once 92 came around, it was, and it was brilliant to qualify because obviously there was only eight nations that went to Sweden in them days.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible for the younger generation now. 24 teams again this summer, but it was only 8 then. It was the elite. You were in a group with, you started off with a Dutch team that had Dennis Bergkamp and Marco van Basten up front.
And the holders as well.
Yeah, it got a wee bit easier after that against the Germans because you only had Jürgen Klinsmann and Karl-Heinz Riedler. And even when you played the Co-op or the CIS as they were at the time, it was still your old pals, Mikhailichenko, Kuznetsov, Kanchelskis. You were taking on some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, it was brilliant to get that. I remember it was one of the Rangers players' birthdays. I don't know if it was a Tuesday, and we were out for a few drinks, and I got a call because I used to write for, not me personally write, but I was a guest columnist for the paper. I think you're at Roger.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted me to go and watch the game, and was it Romania and something they needed to draw for Scotland to get through, and then just go and do your best.
As Roger says, for only 8 teams to qualify is quite the change. I think there's probably people listening just now that wouldn't be aware of that back in 1992. But, you'd been at the World Cup, you'd been to the Euros. Is there any sort of standout moments from Andy Roxburgh at that time? What was he like to work with? What was he like as a coach?
A very methodical, organised. I enjoyed playing under Andy, I've got to say. And I enjoyed playing for Scotland. He wanted me to do, the manager was. But what sticks to me, I tell you what he did after training. He was a juggler of a football. He had some unbelievable skill. I couldn't believe it one day. Him and Pat Nevin were juggling, and he were better than we, Pat. So that's what sticks in my mind. But no, I enjoyed it. It was always good meeting up. and the tournaments were good. We always had lots of things to do. It didn't suit everyone, the quizzes and the race nights and things. But I think that's helped bonds a group of players. And we obviously didn't have the greatest team, but we had a hell of a spirit. And that was made up, from the manager and the coaching staff.
There were those 2 narrow defeats at the start to the Netherlands and West Germany. Andy Roxburgh was actually back in Glasgow the other day, Stuart. He was honoured by the Scottish Football Writers Association. He got a Lifetime Achievement Award. He's now 80 years of age. And they showed video at the presentation of Andy Roxburgh addressing the Tartan Army prior to that game against the Commonwealth of Independent States. And he said that Bertie Vogts, who was manager of West Germany at the time, if the CIS had beaten us, the CIS would have pipped Germany to a place in the semi-finals. And he was telling the Tartan Army, Bertie Vogts has phoned me. Bertie Vogts has said, Andy, can your boys beat the CIS for us? And Andy Roxburgh said to Bertie, no, Bertie, we'll beat the CIS for us. And you did, Stuart.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I tell you what, you go back to the Dutch game, it was a tight game. And you talk about, world-class players gets bandied about, but when you've got Hullet crossing it for Van Basten to flick it on, for Rijkaard to knock it down, and Bergkamp to score, and you get beat 1-0, that is 4 world-class players. And they had Koeman as well at the back. So we come away with that disappointed, but still had a bit of spirit. We go play the Germans. In the first half, we had 5 chances. We were a hard-working, solid, gritty team. But against Germany, we had so many... Goffey and Big Slim give them nightmares in the air from set plays. Riedler scored. We come out at half-time 1-0 down. The Tartan Army were in full voice. And then 2 minutes in, Effenberg goes down the right, crosses it, hits Malpass on his foot and loops over the goalie. And it was so unfortunate. And then from then on, it was just an end-to-end game. And we've come off at 2-0 and we're out of the tournament. So, but we took a lot from it and we said, right, the last game, we've got to make sure we go and give the fans, the supporters, the country, at least a goal and hopefully a win. So I remember we pulled up at the stadium and CIS's bus is next to ours. And we look across, and there's my 2 old teammates, Mikhailichenko and Kuznetsov, big smiles, and doing the champagne sort of noise, into the window. And I know Coisty and Jerky went and spoke to him because I just like focusing on the game. I don't got chatting. But apparently they'd already booked a hotel for where the next round was going to be or the semi-final. Their plan was always to get something against Holland and Germany and beat Scotland, who were just going to be a walkover. So you can imagine the delight when we win the game, we come off. They've told us they've got loads of champagne under their bus. So when we come off, I'm saying to me, Mikhailichenko can't face me anymore. Give us your champagne because we'll be drinking it tonight and you won't be. But in that game, guys, Paul McStay was excellent in tournament. He's a shot, hits the post, comes back, hits the keeper's head and goes in. Brian McClare has a deflected, big loopy shot that goes in. They're on top of us. We then break away. Pat Nevin, who comes on, wins a penalty, and Gary Mack scores it with 3-0. And we probably had the more luck in that game than we had. If we'd have had a little bit of luck like that against Holland, we'd have probably qualified. But at the end of it, we give the Tartan what they wanted. We got a lot of pride back. And, we came back to Scotland with, a lot of reputations intact because it was good performances.
After that, there was obviously the disappointment of not making it to the USA for the 94 World Cup. Was it important then, under Craig Brown in Craig's first qualifying campaign as manager, going to Euro 96, that you got there, A, for yourselves, B, for Craig, but C, also because it was in England?
Oh, exactly. That was a key one. Because it was on his doorstep, it would have been an absolute nightmare if we hadn't got there. So, yeah, we as you said, it was Craig's first campaign. And again, it were a lot of hard fought. I don't think we conceded many goals. We were hard to beat. We didn't create great amount. But again, it was built on spirit and togetherness and teamwork and everything like that, which, you know, as a country like ours, you needed to be, because we didn't have unbelievable players. We didn't have a Dalglish or a Law or a Souness. But we had, you know, a good unit.
I remember when the draw was made. Netherlands again, the Swiss, and of course England. I think the TV cameras with the Rangers training that day at the old Albion, Stuart, and Gazza, of course, was there, and Gazza was saying what England were going to do to Scotland. And I remember the TV cameras catching Archie Knox telling Gazza, "You might like the draw, but I don't fancy your chances in the five-a-sides between now and then."
That's true. Listen, it was again. It was great to be there. The first game, Holland. I mean, what a spectacle! The colour. Obviously, Holland had one end orange, or maybe 1.5 ends at Villa Park.
Yeah. Scotland
had obviously all the banners and flags and line rampants and everything. It was a brilliant occasion, and on that occasion, we did get a little bit of luck, because if you remember. Let's call it the hand of God. The hand of John Collins on the line stopped it. If it had been VAR, it'd have been a goal, or it'd have been a penalty. And we get a little bit of luck. I think we probably deserved it. What a great game. But they had like Seedorf and in Middle Park, and the other little boy who played with the glasses.
Edgar Davids, yeah.
Edgar Davids at Middle Park. They had a good side, but. I think we come away and we go down to obviously Wembley with a lot of confidence, because we started the tournament unlike we'd done in the previous ones. At least we ain't got beat, and we've got a point on the board. Yeah,
I'm just looking through your list of caps here, and this would have been your first full senior match against England as well, and it doesn't really get much bigger than Scotland versus England at Wembley. I remember it so well. It was a roasting hot day, and you know, what's it like walking out onto the Wembley turf with that iconic tartan blue strip on as well?
As I said probably previously, I'm not one for before games going and having a chat with opposition, and I'm like just fully focused. Have a beer with them after, a cup of tea, whatever, not a problem. But before a game, I sort of blank everyone out, go and have a look at the pitch, what studs you're going to wear, look up at the crowd, etc., etc. Just sort the atmosphere in. And but what happened that day, we've come back in. I see Coisty speaking to Gazza, and I think Darren Jackson was speaking at Gazza. He played with him at Newcastle. Obviously, Colin Hendry was up against Shearer, who we played with at Blackburn. Calderwood was up against Sheringham, who we played against Spurs. So they're all little sort of jewels on the pitch, like on me and Gazza, who changed next to each other for nearly 3 years. And we come in, and I'd done an interview on the night before, and me just questions and about. Asked me about me. I said, "Yeah, my little girl wants a 3-3. He wants Gazza to get a hat trick and me to get a hat trick." Now she won. I'm going to say something, but I can't say that now. But yeah, she wasn't thinking great. I might have got 3 tackles, but never going to get 3 goals. But anyway, that was it, and I did that. An interview went out on Friday night, apparently. Anyway, as the game goes on, it's, bear in mind, England have on a back of a poor 1-1 against Switzerland. The crowd are on them a little bit. We'd done okay. We were probably it was a tight game, not a lot in it, but we held us on. In fact, we were probably a little bit better than England at the first half. Anyway, as the half-time whistle goes, they took a free kick. Gazza had gone chasing it, and he was at the far end. He'd gone towards where the goalie was, furthest away from the tunnel, and the half-time whistle went. So he was the furthest away from the tunnel, which was behind the goal. So as I'm walking down to go to the dressing room at half-time, and there was a few boos by the England punters, and I hear this like rapping of studs on concrete, and I turn around quickly, and it's Gazza. And I'd not spoke to him during game, before game or anything. And he's took his shirt off, give me his shirt. He says, "That's for your little girl," and carried on. And I'm like, that. Who in their mind thinks about that? He's had quite a quiet game. And he saw the interview the night before, which I'd not asked for a shirt or anything like that. And he just gave me a shirt, and I've gone down thinking, I put my shirt in my bag, said nothing to anybody. Anyway, we're coming out at half time, and we're coming up, and somebody's shouting, "Oh, 14's off and 3's on," or some numbers we didn't know. They'd made a substitution, and we didn't know who would come on and what they'd done. And they changed the system. They brought Redknapp on, and they brought Pearce off. And I think they put Southgate into back. He was playing middle of park. And for 20 minutes, we didn't get to grips with it. England scored. And then we find his way back in the game again. We settled down, and I cut the ball back for Jukic on Jury. He gets brought down and get a penalty. And obviously, blooming Seaman dives away with his right hand, and it's his left elbow and goes over. It's not a bad penalty. I mean, every bad penalty, penalty you don't score is a bad penalty, but it's not a soft penalty by Gary Mark. It's not a miss the target. He hits it well, and Seaman, unfortunately for us, saves it. And it goes for a corner. But what people don't realise at that time, Terry Venables has got Gazza's number up on the side to bring him off. If we score, Gazza's coming off. Our coaching team and subs had seen it. Up at the side, he's ready to give the ball to the fourth official, whatever it is, who makes a sub. Anyway, the corner comes in, save it, free kick it long, and then the rest is history. Gazza goes on to score probably one of the greatest goals in the tournament. It was the greatest goal in the tournament. And it's funny to this day, because I always get ridiculed about letting Gazza run. But it just gave me a shirt at half time, so I thought, go on, you can have a little free run. That's my story. But no, because I always say to players, my players, when I've managed and coached, stay with your runners, midfielders, stay with your runners. And when they saw that before they've gone, well, why didn't you stay with Gascoigne?
You know what?
I'll tell you why I didn't stay with Gascoigne, because we've got 3 centre-halves at the back, right? Marking one person, Shearer. Sheringham drops deep. And then I'm supposed to maybe get Sheringham comes deep. But you see me pointing, obviously goes on. And that's me getting myself out of a hole. But we did have three centre-halves, and they had one striker at a time, and Sheringham had drifted wide, and Gascoigne makes a run. And the rest is history, unfortunately.
Yeah. I was literally just watching it there just now, just because I thought it was you who crossed it in for the penalty that we got, and then obviously it's just ran on there, and there's a beautiful still frame of you just pointing at Gazza, and he's about 10 yards in front of you. So that's obviously what you were saying at that point.
What are you 3 centre-halves? He's coming.
So it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault.
The thing about that is we get back on the bus. Obviously, we're gutted, and we're going back up to the Midlands for this last game against Switzerland. But we've still got an outside chance. And we sat at the back of the bus. And we've been about an hour, and then Coisty says, "Well, disappointed, get a bit. At least I got something out of the game." And he pulls Gazza's shirt out, and I look at him like with sort of discourse, and I says, "That's disgraceful. What are you doing?" And all other lads are looking. They're saying, "Well, Gazza swapped shirts with me." I says, "You've gone and taken a player's shirt who scored the goal against us. That's probably knocked us out of the tournament." And lads were a bit, and Costa's going, "Oh, don't be silly." And somebody said, "Oh, you're only because you didn't get one." I says, "Oh, didn't I?" So I dived into my bag. I says, "No, I got the one he didn't score against the Swiss." Gets it up, yeah.
Did you manage to grab any other shirts across your international career that are close to your heart?
Well, to be honest, I want one for that. I mean, I remember against Holland, what you're talking about in U92. My first job was to try to man Mark Bergkamp. Then it was Rijkaard. And then I did another job on somebody else. And then when final whistle went, Gary Mark, somebody else run to all the players. And I got a guy called Van Earl who plays centre-back. I didn't know who he was. But the only one time I've ever got somebody's shirt that I want. I think I got Thomas Muller's in German game and Seedorf's in Holland. But I want a big shirt collector. But prior to I don't know if it's World Cup or Euro 92, Scotland went over to America. It might have been Euro 92 or Euro 96.
It was Euro 96.
And we played Colombia.
Yeah.
And there's a minute to go. And Stuart McCall had marked, what's the famous Colombian player?
Oh, Valderrama.
Valderrama,
of course, with the big hair, right?
Yeah.
So I used to style my hair on him, but he was an outstanding player. And Stuart McCall had marked him out all game. They beat us 1-0, I think. And there's a corner, a free kick for a throw-in with a minute to go. And I'm down at right side, and I look back, and Valderrama's on halfway line. He stayed up, and Stuart McCall behind him marking him. And I've shouted, Stuart. I said, Stuart, you've got a long throw. You come and take your throw. He thought there were about 4 or 5 minutes to go, but I knew there was only a minute to go. So Stuart comes jogging down to take this long throw into their box. 20 seconds later, the referee blows his whistle. I'm actually standing marking Valderrama from the long throw-in because I'm on halfway line, and I swapped shirts with him. And I felt really bad to Stuart McCall, but it'd been done to me that often. I thought, well, so that's the one shirt I've got, Valderrama's, which is probably a treasure.
Yeah, that's a very decent one. Very decent one. So let's finish off with the Switzerland game then at Villa Park. Again, genuinely one of my earliest, favouriteest memories of watching football. Yeah. The Ali McCoist goal was just tremendous. His celebration afterwards, you could tell what it meant to him. He ran straight over to Craig Brown. I mean, you mentioned this, Stuart. It's all about, or that team in particular was all about the team spirit and, the gritty determination, being hard to beat, but also the dressing room must have been like quite the place as well. And you could see that when Ali scored that goal, he went straight over to Craig Brown straight away.
Yeah, well, it's funny because if you listen to people like Gary Neville and maybe Carragher, and they said when they played for England, there were cliques. There were a Liverpool clique, McManaman and that, and then there were a Man United clique, and there were an Arsenal or a Chelsea clique. With us, there were no cliques. Even obviously Rangers Celtic lads, they had a few in the squad, like Paul McStay, John Collins, Tom Boyd, Cross McKinley, and we had obviously a big Rangers contingent in it. And then you'd Dundee United, Aberdeen, Hearts, etc. So, but there was never any cliquiness or anything like that. All the boys got on well. But that game, it was an incredible game because even before that, of course you could have had two. You see, when it was in COVID, they replayed all the Euro games back, didn't they? And it's the first time I've ever seen the game back in full. And it was one of because England were playing Holland the same night. Obviously, most people had watched that. But it was one of the best games of football, end-to-end game. Because Switzerland needed to win to go through, and we needed to win by a couple of goals. And it was just end-to-end. It was brilliant. Of course, his goal, a great strike, 25-yard, and we go in at our time, we come out, and then we're finding out from punters and everyone that England are 3 up. And we need another goal. So I think we're about 15 minutes to go. Craig's pushed Colin Hendry up top. And they're breaking, they're having chances. Goalie's made a couple of great saves as usual. Their keeper's made a couple of great saves. And it's just like a basketball game, end to end. Because they've got everything to play for as well. So then, all of a sudden, there's a buzz goes around the ground. And obviously England scored the fourth. So Colin Hendry now is back in centre half. And we're sort of not playing out the game, but we know we're through at that stage. And then a couple of minutes later, and obviously there's a bit of I went to take a throw in, boy threw me, says we need another goal, Stuart. I'm thinking obviously that's Holland must have scored. And then again, Colin Hendry was thrown back up front, and it was just end to end, and it was again another glorious defeat in victory. Really, we did everything. The crowd was brilliant. We got a ovation after the game. I remember Gordon Strachan, I don't know if he was manager at Coventry at the time, or he was the first in the dressing room to go around everyone saying how proud he was of Scotland players and what they'd done for the country. And again, another sob story really. We got so near, but
Yeah.
Just not enough.
As we mentioned earlier on, only 8 teams qualified for 92. It was up to 16 by Euro 96. But, you know, had we got 4 points back in the day when there was if there was 24 teams, would be in the next round, and you'd be spoken about as, you know, absolute legends for getting Scotland out the group stages.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, and as soon as we went back to Scotland, I got on a flight, I think the day after, and flew off to see Mickey Mouse, and I just couldn't face watching the tournament, because thinking that we could and should have progressed. And but again, we come away with a lot of plaudits. We'd matched England, but obviously got beat. We'd done okay against Holland, and we beat Switzerland. And it would another a hard luck story, but just great effort and desire. But the last game against Switzerland was a really good game of football.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you mentioned Gordon Strachan there in the dressing room, Stuart. In more recent times, of course, when Gordon was later Scotland manager, he brought you back into the fold. You look at this current squad, are there some of the guys who will go to Germany this summer that you worked with under Gordon?
Oh, gosh. I think, Andy Robertson came in. Oh, I wouldn't know. Let me think off the top of my head. Who else is... Who's the old ones in the squad? Have we got any old ones?
Grant Hanley would be there, yeah?
Yes, Grant was there. 100% Grant was there, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean...
I don't know if John McGinn breaking in from 21s?
I think he was probably kicking about at that stage, but maybe just really early days, yeah.
What do you think of the chances of this squad this summer going to Germany, Stuart?
What's that, sorry?
What do you think of the chances? I mean, we've never quite made it. Is this the time for history? As Stephen said, 4 points would certainly get us into the last 16. 3 might be enough.
I know, and it's like with any... When you haven't got such a strong squad in depth, numbers, you need, you know, everyone if possible to be available.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at the minute, it don't look like we're going to have it. I mean, obviously, I think it's Patterson and Hickey out, the 2 right backs.
Yeah.
And there's talk. Obviously, the young boy Ferguson's out. There's doubts about a couple others. But I think to have a chance, you have to have your best players, and hopefully we might have. But I mean, I go back to the last Euros, and I was at the both Hampden games. Czech Republic were disappointing. We go down to Wembley, and we were the only team that England didn't score against in the competition. Mm-hmm. And it's a real battling, good performance. Little Gilmore was in there, came to prominence. And then we come back up against Croatia, who'd struggled. And it were all built up. I think there was only 12,500 in Hampden because of the COVID at the time. But it sounded like 50,000 because we've been used to going to games with nobody there. And I think there was an expectation. And it just fell so flat because the little boy Modric turned up and he was outstanding. And we didn't deal with him and we got beat 3-1. So, but to lose both home games, you know, that was a killer really, because we had an opportunity after getting a point at England to go through. So that I mean, the Steve Clarke and the players that were there will look back at that as a missed opportunity. But now they have got one, as you say, to go on and to make history. And I think they're in a group that they can do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm just looking at correct me if I'm wrong, Roger, Slovenia, Scotland, the 2-2 game, that was Gordon Strachan's final game in charge at the end of the World Cup qualifying campaign. Is that correct?
I'm trying to think.
I think it was. So I've got that team up anyway, Stuart. So Andy Robertson, you were right in saying Callum McGregor was in the squad. James Forrest is probably going to be in the squad still.
Forrest,
Grant Hanley, as we mentioned. John McGinn was on the bench. And Kieran Tierney played at right back that night as well. Now, that sort of conundrum that seems to, you know, rear its head from time to time about Robertson and Tierney, it does look like Steve Clarke has got that solved.
Yeah. I think the back three, I think Kieran Tierney plays really well at left centre back, and Andy at left wing back. You know, so I think that has worked well in the past. I think we're going into the tournament, unfortunately, not on a great run of form, but I don't think that'll matter. obviously we've got the 2 games, is it Finland and Gibraltar, to get a little bit of confidence, hopefully, going into the tournament. But yeah, no, I think under Gordon we had some. I mean, we beat Croatia twice. They were ranked 4th in the world at the time. We beat them home and away. But then the other times we were in a qualifier with Germany and Poland. And remember Lewandowski coming to Hamden, we drew 2-2. Got beat against Germany 3-2. But again, it were all almost, but not quite. So, you know, as you said, these guys have got a chance to go that step further that no Scottish player has done. So, obviously, the whole nation, there'll be thousands and thousands, obviously, Scots over there with them, without tickets. And it should be a great occasion for everyone. But there is an opportunity to go far.
Will you make it to Germany? I've just got an image of you sitting in that room with those tartan curtains, a tartan scarf on, shouting at the television, willing his own. Well,
do you know what, Roger? Prior to COVID, I was going to go over to California and do this Highway 1 route down to LA and that. And because it's my 40th birthday coming, or is it 60th birthday coming up in June, my wife secretly booked me that, not knowing the Euros was on. So I'm going to be over there, then up to Vegas. But I'm back after the last Scotland games. So I'm back for the first game when they qualify.
Right,
so I'll be back in Germany for that one.
So basically what you're saying is, to the Tartan Army, Stuart McCall will be in Munich somewhere falling off the roof of a car. Is that what we're going to see?
That was my twin brother, but I might be.
Excellent. That's what it. Right, I've got some quick fire questions, then we're going to go into a quiz, and then we'll wrap this up, Stuart. Thanks so much for your time again. But thinking back to the squads that you were in, we're asking all the players that come on, or all the former players that come on, about their Euro teammates. So who back in the day was the one who was in charge of the tunes in the dressing room?
By the way, I don't think back in the day we had tunes in dressing room.
Now, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to sound cheeky, right? Did nobody have a boombox?
No, I think I used to just hum along and that. No, I don't think we did.
That's amazing. Who was the teacher's pet under Craig and under Andy?
Oh, well, I think Pat Nevin would have been. Especially Craig, because I think he had a Clyde connection, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I think Pat was probably the team. Having said that, he'd probably say he wasn't, because he didn't start a lot of games. He always came on a sub. But yeah, I would say Pat probably.
Well, that's good, because Pat Nevin's going to be on a future podcast, so we'll put that to him and get his response to that. Who was the joker in the dressing room? Who was keeping the spirits up?
Well, you'd always go McCoist, wouldn't you? That's a natural. But I think people like little Billy McKinley, Badger, he had good banter. But it was the goalie. It was just a good wee John Collins as well. I remember wee John. I roomed with him when I was at Evan. He was at Hibs. Just a quick one, and I roomed with him for first Scotland game. And we were in Scotland, and the adverts came on. And every time the adverts came on, he used to do press ups. Or sit-ups, both of them. So I was fed up with this. So even though my favourite programme was Coronation Street at the time, I made sure we watched BBC One all night, so he couldn't do a press-up and a sit-up because there were no adverts on BBC.
So when the adverts came on, John Collins got in and did press-ups?
And sit-ups, yeah. It was a machine.
That's almost like a John Collins myth story. That's amazing. Who was the best singer of the national anthem? I mean, Colin Hendry.
Me.
Oh, you and Colin Hendry, surely.
Yeah, probably big. I don't know. He was too far away from me.
That's true.
He was up at the top. I was at the 7th.
Yeah. And who's?
By the way, here's one for you.
Uh-huh.
I just watched a clip before I came on a Euro 92, and I think the Scottish national anthem in Euro 92 was what?
Scotland the Brave.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when did Flower of Scotland come about?
Well, again, on a previous podcast, in the quiz question, it was when was Flower of Scotland adopted as the national anthem, and it was in the 90s. It was 1997. when it was adopted, I think, or maybe a couple of years before. So, I mean, yeah.
I think 96, England 96 would do a Sing Flower of Scotland, I think
so. We'll double check that. But it was
92 never.
It was at some point in the 90s. And who was the best player in that? And every Scotland team that you played for, out of all of the players that you played with, who was the player? Who was the best player?
Well, I would say for leadership qualities, Richard Gough, without a doubt. I think I've always said the best world class. I think I played with one world class player in my time that could have gotten a world 11 in a certain period, and that was a goalie, Andy Gorham.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Paul McStay, Gary McAllister were two outs, and John Collins were really all top midfielders, and Coisty knew where the goal was.
Excellent. Okay, right, Stuart, thanks so much for your time, but we need to do the Summer European Championship quiz, the football tournament quiz. Now, the score to beat so far is Stephen O'Donnell with 6. Okay, so there's a minute on the clock. We're going to fire through
I've got an afternoon booked. I've got to get a train in half an hour, so I don't think I can do this.
No, listen, it'll only take a minute. A minute is on the clock just now. So, Stuart, your time begins right now. Who won Euro 96?
I've no idea. I told you we're in Florida.
Who scored the golden goal?
No interest.
Who scored the golden goal to win it?
Once we were at the tournament, no interest.
Okay, right, that's fine. We'll skip
Germany.
that one. In which country was
Germany.
Euro 92 held?
Which country 92 held?
Yes.
Sweden.
Who was the top scorer at Euro 88?
Lineker? No.
Which team did Hungary play in their first game of this year's tournament in our group?
Switzerland.
Name any of the Leeds players that made the 92 squad.
Gary Mack.
Let's get another one in. Who's the current assistant manager of Scotland?
John Carver.
How many games did Scotland play at Hampden in the last tournament?
2.
Who was Scotland's only goal scorer at Euro 96?
McCoist.
See, you got a head of steam up there,
I
Stuart.
see. You wouldn't want to take part in the quiz, but we lured you in once you knew what the answers were.
Well, I thought you was going to ask me loads of questions about this tournament.
No. Euro history. Right, Roger Hanna is our expert on Clyde One Super Scoreboard when it comes to quiz questions, so we'll go through them. Who won Euro 96? You eventually said Germany, so that is a point, obviously. You will know that. In which country was Euro 92 held? You said Sweden.
Yep.
The correct answer. That's you up to 2. Who was the top goal scorer at Euro 88? You said Lineker. Do you know who it was?
I thought Van Basten.
Marco van Basten is the correct answer. Yes, there you are. Which team did Hungary play in their first game of this year's tournament? Obviously, we play Germany, so that means that Hungary plays Switzerland.
England probably didn't get there in 88.
Well, no,
Anyway.
they got beat by Ireland, did they not? In 88, I'm sure that was that.
Anyway, sorry.
Ray Houghton, possibly. Name any of the Leeds players that made the 92 squad. You said Gary Mack. Obviously, that's you up to 4. Scotland assistant manager John Carver. You're on a roll now, Stuart. That is you up to 5. How many games did Scotland play at Hampden? We spoke about that. That is 6. And of course, Ali McCoist was the only goal scorer at Euro 96, which means, Stuart McCall, you're the new leader in our summer tournament football quiz. So you are on 7. Congratulations, Stuart. We've got a few more to go. I don't know if you can see this, but we do have a trophy. I don't know if you can see this on the cameras here. So
Yeah, I can. I hope somebody beats 7.
Yeah.
So
That would be nice next to the tartan curtains. It would be.
precisely. Yeah, I think that'd look good in your room.
Or
So,
maybe behind the tartan curtains.
I mean, wait till we tell the bosses. The bosses here at the radio station need to pay for post and packaging with that. I mean, they'll no be up for that. So, listen, Stuart, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and we'll hopefully see you over in Germany if Scotland make it through to the last 16 and beyond. And yeah, thanks so much for your time, Stuart.
Brilliant, guys. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Stuart. See you soon.
There he goes. There is Stuart
Thanks.
McCall, our latest guest on our podcast, and we'll be back next time for more Scotland's Euro stories. So remember, you can get all the latest, obviously, on the scottishsun.co.uk, all your transfer gossip, all your Scotland news as well, so you can catch up there. Myself and Roger will be back next time with another guest for some more Scotland's Euro stories. We'll catch you then. Cheery bye.